Welcome back to Tipping Point. I'm your host, Riley Lewis, filling in for Kara McKinney. We now continue with our 8th installment of the Palm Beach Playbook, where we bring you the very latest campaign updates, courtesy of official Team Trump members Tommy Pigott and Taylor Rogers. So let's dive in. As you'll recall, on Tuesday, Kamala Harris's partner in crime, Joe Biden, called tens of millions of Americans garbage.
Just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or Puerto Rico where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
Sickening. Just sickening. Truly sickening. And then yesterday, Kamala actually defended Biden, ignoring the fact that his so-called clarification was really just damage control. She admitted she spoke with Biden after the disparaging remark, but she said it didn't come up. She refused to acknowledge the millions of Americans who feel highly insulted by his belittling comment. She pivoted also and said that she disagreed with criticism of people based on who they vote for, just one day after she refused to disavow her running mate's comparison of Trump supporters to Nazis. Tampon Tim Walz, who spent the past few days doing so, was just as inept in his response as well. He tacitly endorsed Biden's affront and downplayed Democrats' long history of smearing Republicans by calling them things like garbage and deplorables.
There has been some reporting that President Biden has been sidelined during this campaign. One, is there any truth to that? And if not, is this an example of maybe why he should be sidelined?
Well, look, President Biden's the president of the United States. He's running it. Vice President Harris is our candidate and will be the next president. And I think there's two different positions there. The vice president is out speaking about the things that we need to be done for the country. She's talking about all of those issues that matter to folks. And the president's doing what he needs to do.
But here's the thing, Biden's comment, that was not an isolated incident. For weeks and weeks on end, Kamala has spread the same exact lies, hatred, vitriol, and division that fueled 2 assassination attempts on President Trump's life by repeatedly comparing Trump supporters to fascists and comparing Trump himself to the most evil mass murderer in world history, Adolf Hitler. 94-year-old Auschwitz survivor Jerry Wartsky denounced Kamala for her heinous rhetoric.
My name is Jerry Wartsky. I'm 94 years old and survivor of Auschwitz and the death marches. Adolf Hitler invaded Poland when I was 9 years old. He murdered my parents and most of our family. I know more about Hitler than Kamala will ever know in 1,000 lifetimes. For her to accuse President Trump of being like Hitler is the worst thing I've ever heard in my 75 years living in the United States. I know President Trump, and he would never say this, and Kamala Harris knows this. She owes my parents and everybody else who was murdered by Hitler an apology for repeating this lie.
Why should the Jewish people support President Trump?
Because he's a mensch. I believe that President Trump is definitely going to be good for Israel, because in everything that he's done up to now was in favor. He never double-crossed anyone, and he never showed any weakness. Watching President Trump pray for the hostages at the OHL and getting to spend time with him so meaningful. He has always stood with the Jewish people and the state of Israel.
But of course, Kamala, Tampon Tim, and the rest of their ilk just can't explicitly distance themselves from Biden's insult because they agree with it.
You can put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. They're racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it.
Or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
You said over the weekend, referring to it, there's a direct parallel to a big rally that happened in the mid-1930s at Madison Square Garden.
Well, look,
you were comparing that rally to a Nazi rally?
Look, I'm comparing it to the hate that came out of this, and I think they confirmed that.
You stand by that comparison, though, to a Nazi rally?
Look, the rally, you saw it for yourself. I'll let the American public make the decision of what they saw.
What about you, though?
So I know what I saw, and I'll just leave it at that.
Do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
And President Trump responded to Biden's vile comment during his rally in Green Bay, Wisconsin yesterday in his beautiful garbage man outfit.
Kamala has been comparing her political opponents to the most evil mass murderers in history. And now, speaking on a call for her campaign last night, crooked Joe Biden finally said what he and Kamala really think of our supporters. He called them garbage. No way. No way. And they actually mean it, even though, without question, my supporters are far higher quality than Crooked Joe or Lion Kamala. Higher quality. You can't be president if you hate the American people, which I believe they do. And Kamala Harris is not fit to be president of the United States.
Joining us now to discuss is Tommy Pickett, the Director of Strategic Communications for the Republican National Committee and the Editor-in-Chief of the Palm Beach Playbook. Tommy, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
So I have to say, it was pretty epic to watch Donald Trump go to McDonald's in Pennsylvania, but now to see him come out and embrace the garbage term as a garbage man in that outfit, it's just brilliant instinct. So what do you make of that, and what do you think the American people are thinking right now?
Well, I think two things. First, it's a reminder of what Joe Biden said. It's a reminder of what Kamala Harris believes. It's a reminder of what the Democrats have been pushing for years and years. You outlined it there, all of their heinous rhetoric. But I think the second thing is it shows that the joy is with President Trump. The joy is not with Kamala Harris. President Trump is a happy warrior for this country, despite everything that he's been through, despite all of the attacks, 2 assassination attempts. He is going out there as a joyful, happy warrior because he has a vision to make America great again. He has the right policies and the right vision on his side. And so when he goes out there and does that, it's a unifying moment for the American people. It's yet another example of President Trump responding to all the heinous things happening on the other side and leading us out of that moment, bringing us together, embracing all of the American people and say, let's come together and save this country.
Certainly, and responding with so much grace, right? I mean, instead of just fighting fire with fire and throwing the same hatred and vitriol back, what does Trump do? He finds a way to connect with the American people over this issue and put himself into their shoes, and it's really quite brilliant to see Kamala come at him with hatred, vitriol, disgusting lies, and he just meets her right there in the middle, but he doesn't need that same kind of scare tactic or intimidation. He doesn't have to smear her. These kind of actions, they speak everything for him. It's the perfect line of defense. So I just like to see how graceful he is in that response to Kamala. Obviously, we needed to see something from him, and I'm really glad he did this of all things because it is such the perfect way to throw the rhetoric and the nasty vitriol right back at her without engaging the same kind of dehumanizing tactic. So I think politically speaking, this strategy was so well done and so well executed, and of course, the timing of it. I mean, he's on an airplane and all of a sudden they have a custom garbage truck ready to go for him on the tarmac at the airport in Green Bay. It's like, you can't make this kind of stuff up, and you can't buy that kind of critical instinct on the campaign trail. So we are running out of time here, but Tommy, I'd like to ask you, what do you think this is going to do for voters? Do you think this might persuade some of those people who are still hesitant to get to the ballot box and to cast their vote for Trump?
Well, I think it's going to be another example of motivating people to the polls. I think this is a perfect example of President Trump, again, standing with the working men and women of this country, standing with the sanitary workers of this country. He thanked them during his speech. And it's also an example of who Joe Biden is really calling garbage. He's calling garbage the working men and women of this country. And those working men and women built this country. President Trump stands with them. He will defend them. He will pursue policies that help them. It's reaffirming that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have failed working men and women of this country. President Trump will stand with them. And that's why, again, he has 60% of union members like the Teamsters unions. President Trump is the president for the working men and women of this country.
He certainly is, and that's never been more clear than it is right now. So, of course, this is just brilliant stuff, and I really hope that message, I think you're right about that message really landing and resonating. I mean, I bet even Democrats are looking at this and saying, gosh, I mean, he really is connecting with the American people. He really is just a man of the people. That's the bottom line, and whether it's McDonald's or this, it just is becoming even more clear, and I just love that so much because the American people need that energy back in the White House now more than ever before. So this is just awesome stuff. I hope he keeps it up, and really just brilliant campaign strategy. So, of course, Tommy, as always, thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.